Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Moment of Clarity number 23 or 24, I believe. Thanks for coming along on the journey here. So today for Moment of Clarity, and I'm going to get to some other topics after I do this first one, but what I want to start with is Bloomberg. You know, Bloomberg, the news outlet, the right wing, or I call it right wing. Yeah, they probably call themselves centrist or something, but full on unfettered corporatist, unfettered capitalist media outlet. Bloomberg is reporting, quote, California water futures begin trading amid fear of scarcity. Water joined gold, oil, and other commodities traded on Wall Street, unquote. Yes, that's right. Finally, I can start making money off the fact that people don't have water. God, I can't believe it has taken this long. I've been itching to make loads of dough off the fact that people are dying of thirst. I mean, to be honest, I've been making money off water scarcity for a while now, but in order to do it, I had to go searching for people dying of thirst out in the desert and then dance around them with a bottle of water going, look what I got. Give me $100 and I'll give it to you. And then they'd go, okay, fine. And they'd give me the $100 and I'd go, here you go, yoink. And then I'd say, give me 200. And they'd give me 200. So that was kind of, it was time intensive. It worked, but it was time intensive. And so this new betting on water scarcity on Wall Street sounds a lot easier. Really does. And you know what else is nice? Sometimes I don't like to take the time to pull out my phone and type in the commodity I want to look up and then read the price it's trading at. So now, in order to check my water portfolio, all I have to do is just use Google Earth to look up images of drought-ridden areas and see how many dead people are laying around on the sidewalks. And then I know. I'd be like, oh, look, there's 14 people dead that have died of thirst. I bet my water futures are doing great. See, I can just check it that way. I don't have to go to checking the price and everything. I know that may sound greedy. I get that may sound greedy, but no, Bloomberg will tell you betting on water supplies is not greedy. Quote, they are meant to serve, the water bets, quote, they are meant to serve both as a hedge for big water consumers such as almond farmers and electric utilities against water price fluctuations, as well as a scarcity gauge for investors worldwide, unquote. Yes, this is not disgusting or greedy, betting on water scarcity. These serve as a hedge for big water consumers. Think about it. You're an almond farmer, all right? Using insane amounts of water, insane amounts of fresh water every month so that an empty-headed pastel suburban mall walker can down 5 almond milk lattes every single day. But because of climate change, there's a terrible drought and you can't grow as many almonds and your business suffers. Have no fear. If you put just a few $1 million into bets or hedges that California will soon turn into a Mad Max dystopian desert wasteland only fit for cockroaches and share, then you will make a lot of money as the world burns. And everything will be fine for you. You see how it works? Everyone else will be fucked. But that's no worry because you'll be rich. You see how the system works? This is great. This is just real exciting that we can now bet on water scarcity. So of course this is fucking horrifying. This is the market system running amok, which it's been doing for a long fucking time because that's how it's designed. That's at the core of it. This is not an accident. This is how it works. It puts profit on everything. So that you can make a profit off the fact that people are dying from lack of water in this world. And another point is that having billions of dollars invested into bets that water will become even more scarce, it creates an incentive for powerful forces to keep water scarce. So there's even less reason to provide the world clean, free water. I've talked about this before, that they, not just in these hedges, but also with stocks in general, they create a massive force, a gravity towards certain things. There is a strong gravity in this country to keep weapons contractor stocks high. So how do they do that? Well, the government gives them massive contracts. The government keeps war going on. They have to manufacture consent with the American public to allow for these wars to go on. And they also have to keep dropping bombs, because if you have a glut of bombs sticking around in the warehouse, then why are you going to keep ordering more? Why are you going to keep the weapons contractors' prices up by ordering more bombs and missiles if you already have them sitting there in the warehouse? So we've got to keep dropping them. That's why one of the many reasons why there is a force that has pushed Trump to, not that Trump needed pushing, but Trump to drop 40,000 bombs a year, and under Obama it was like 30,000 a year. So yeah, these things create a force, and the investors, the capitalists, the Wall Streeters, they don't want to admit it. They don't want to say it creates a force. They want to say, no, it's just how society works, and we're investing in a company that's doing well. That's all it is. But of course, it's much more insidious than that. Anyway, that's been your moment of clarity on the new hedges on water scarcity. But I have another topic I'd like to talk about here that we can chit chat about, and feel free to throw in topics or comments in the comment section. Thanks for joining me. Please share this feed so that we can hang out with more folks, get all the people at the party. I'm going to talk. Well, let's see. What should I do first? All right. I'll do a moment about the massive $600 stimulus they're getting ready to send people in America making less than $75,000 a year. Thank you, Congress, for being so kind as to send us a $600 check that will do almost nothing. So I think most of you know this is a fucking slap in the face. It's a slap in the face in a lot of ways. This doesn't create that much difference, but on top of it, this is as they're giving trillions to Wall Street and to the military and to big banks. They send $600 checks to the people so that we will ignore the fact that this is largely just a massive robbery, one of the largest ever seen. That was true of the first stimulus bill. It's true of this stimulus bill. And a lot of people don't understand how different this could be if we didn't have a government owned and operated by corporate interests, by the sociopaths at the top that are rich as, and I looked it up the other day, they are as rich as ever-loving fuck. I just looked it up. So no one can doubt that fact right there. I want to show you how this could be different and how it is different in other countries, with a tweet from Robert Reich. He's a very well-known economist. You've probably heard of him. Let's see here. So here is his tweet. The pandemic relief by country as percent of wages. Japan is covering 100% of their people's wages during the pandemic, lost wages. Netherlands, 90%. Norway, 90%. Germany, 87%. France, 84% of people's wages during the pandemic. Italy, 80%. UK, 80%. Canada, 75%. America, 0%. Do you see the difference? Are you noticing a difference in those numbers? I mean, it's fucking incredible to see how Americans are being treated versus other countries. This does not mean other countries are doing great. Obviously, UK is having all kinds of fucking troubles. But let me tell you, it's a lot easier if for people to get by, for people not to be in line for hours at food banks, as we're seeing across America, if their wages are covered. And this also is more likely to happen in countries where workers have power, where workers have a say, where the government fears the workers and what they will do and what they will demand. In the U.S., workers' rights and workers' power has been largely gutted. You got 7%, I think, of the workforce is in unions. And even the ones in unions have very little power nowadays because for most of the big unions, their leadership is, run by fairly, I don't know, pro-capitalist, pro-corporatist mindset. Now, I don't know. I don't know enough about them to say they've been fully captured, but maybe they have. But they have very little power across this country. And so the government, our government and Congress is not afraid of them. They're afraid of what their big donors are going to think. So they're afraid of what, the Amazon, like Bezos, would think of like what they're doing, whether they're giving enough money to certain entities or what weapons contractors, what big banks might think. They are not worried as to what like the teachers union is going to think or what the nurses union is going to think. Because it comes down to power plays and what power demands, and that is not where the power is anymore. Because those entities have either been gutted or captured by the corporate state, by the corporate establishment. So I think that there's a lot of Americans that are furious, are upset, are troubled, are having a tough time. Yet they think that like, there's not that much more our government could have done for us. And that's horseshit. Government functioning properly is there for these moments. It's there for these crises. It steps in to help people in need. And it's not doing that right now because the capitalist system is about exploitation. It's about enriching the top while everybody else struggles. And, the numbers, I'm going to talk more about this on Redacted tonight this week, but 1 in 3 workers right now, not workers, adults, 1 in 3 adults in America said that they have had trouble paying their bills or paying for food or necessities in the past week. 1 out of 3. It's an incredible, we're on the cusp of another Great Depression. And they're sending $600. What does that tell you about what these people stand for? That should be all you have to hear. That should be all you have to know. And if you take the amount of stimulus, including the $600 and including the $1,200 from before, and you break it up across every day since the lockdowns began, it amounts to $6.69 a day. The government, during a time of unprecedented economic trouble, unprecedented lockdowns, unprecedented pandemic in a lot of ways, at least in the last 100 years, they have sent the people $6.69 a day. You're welcome, America. Thank goodness you have these amazing leaders in your Congress and the presidency standing up for you. So speaking of standing up for you, I also wanted to talk for another minute. I know I talked about it on the last Moment of Clarity, but I want to talk for another minute about the force of vote on Medicare for All. Speaking of standing up for you and how they're failing to. Many of you probably have been following this ongoing shit fest. That's a lot of it's taking place on Twitter, but it's also taking place on various usually mostly online shows. The mainstream media doesn't want to cover it because then they would add fuel to people demanding Medicare for all, demanding healthcare in one of the richest countries in the world, demanding that we join the rest of the industrialized world by having our healthcare covered by the government, covered by the taxes that we pay. Please, by the way, if you're on Facebook, please come over to youtube.com/Moment of Clarity and click subscribe. It's just easier for me. I'm actually barely less suppressed on YouTube than Facebook. But anyway, youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. Please subscribe over there. But so the fight continues over this thing. As I said on the last episode, it was started by Jimmy Dore, a friend of mine, but also a fellow left-wing comedian. And it just, I'm not going to go through all the details again because I did it in the last video, but it's just demanding that the progressives in Congress withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi as speaker, because she's got to be voted in as speaker, withhold their vote unless they get a vote for Medicare for all on the House floor. And since we last talked a couple of days ago, hasn't been that long. Well, for one thing, the petition I was telling you about is now has over 21,000 signatures, which is pretty exciting. The petition to demand a floor vote for Medicare for all, you can find it at forcethevote.org. And in fact, I'll put it in the comment section. But if you go to forcethevote.org, it will, it takes 15 seconds and you just add your name to it. And normally I don't promote petitions online because I think they're largely meaningless. However, in this case, you are talking about a very small number of Congress people who are progressive, supposedly, to begin with. And they just need to be pushed to withhold their vote from a fucking awful, corrupt speaker named Nancy Pelosi, who is less liked in America than Donald Trump. All right. This is not a popular speaker. This is not like, oh, I can't stand up against the popularity of the Nancy Pelosi, the wave of support that just floods over us every time Nancy Pelosi. Well, if you ever see her walking around in public, she's just mobbed by fanboys and fangirls. People want their autographs with her. They're throwing underwear to her. Nancy, please. Yeah, that's not a thing. She's fucking hated. She's less liked than Donald Trump. And so demanding these progressives, this small handful of progressives, technically two handfuls, withhold their vote unless they get a vote on Medicare for all, it's actually of the like reasonable, doable things that a petition could actually help with. It's rare, but it's happening. So, go over to forcethevote.org after you're done watching here and sign that petition. And anyway, 21,000 already. It was, when I showed it to you, it was at 600. So, or 800 or something. Pretty exciting. So yeah, I mean, and now this thing has turned into, if you've been watching the tweets and shit, it turned into like a lot of so-called progressives on the left. A lot of so-called leftists have been revealed as just kind of con artists. I mean, it's really sad to see. With several of them, I can't say I'm surprised, but they've decided to make it all about like, oh, I don't like that Jimmy said this word once, or I don't like that Jimmy's a white man, or I don't like that Jimmy has a rough tone and it's tough to handle bad language. Oh, dear God. It's just this crazy amount of pearl clutching, and really what they're doing is it's a defense mechanism against anybody actually calling these so-called progressive senators, but House people, representatives, to account, because they expect, there's a lot of people who consider themselves progressives who expect you to just fawn over every move that, AOC or Ilhan Omar, or, there's several of them on this list, 15 or so on this list. But they, Rashida Tlaib and all of them, but they want you to just fawn over everything they do, as if they should never be held to account beyond just high-fiving them and going, "You're the bestest." But in fact, it's not saying you got to hate them. It's not saying you got to be like, fuck these people. But they demand a vote on Medicare for all is not a big ask. It's not like we're demanding they, cover themselves in red paint and have a die-in on the floor of the House and just go, I need health care, and just collapse and have video cameras running and then just put it all over the inner tubes. And everybody's like, holy shit, did you see fucking AOC just threw red paint all over Mitch McConnell and said, people are fucking dying, you asshole. Like, that, I'd be down for that, but I'm saying that's not the ask. It's not that big a deal in this situation compared to what should be demanded of our representatives and our senators. So now, like I said, a lot of the, I don't know if you want to call them the left. I don't know. These YouTube personalities have decided to make it all about how they don't like Jimmy Dore. And, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they just defend anything AOC does or AOC or the squad do. So if they do something, then it must be right. End of story. So therefore, we must hate Jimmy Dore. A lot of them are doing it because they're, I don't know. I think a lot of them are jealous that Jimmy has created this movement, that it originated from him. Now you have a lot of important people signed on to this, like Cornel West and, Marianne Williamson and Movement for a People's Party. And all these people are saying this is a good idea. So I think that they're upset that it wasn't them that kind of started a powerful progressive movement like this. And anyway, I don't know where it could lead. It'd be awesome if it leads to something substantive. But at the end of the day, whatever happens with Force the Vote, at the end of the day, don't put your hopes in Congress. I will continue to say that. Don't expect this, hundreds of largely millionaires who don't give a shit about you and are really just worried about whether they'll win their next term in Congress. Don't put your hope in them. There come moments here and there where it makes sense to push them on something, but the change, we need a revolution of humanity. We don't just need to make the $600 check a $1,200 check, and then all is well, right? It's horseshit. So I think this is a tiny moment of a tiny demand that people will forget about, unfortunately, a month or two from now. So I say I say absolutely force the vote, force these people to force the vote, but also let's think about bigger things. Let's think about the system as a whole. Let's think about the fact that Wall Street is now gambling on the fact that water will be scarce, on people dying of thirst around the world. That is now something you can get rich off of, which, as I said at the beginning of this, I'm very excited about, because I was hoping for a long time to make money off of people dying. I just haven't jumped in yet. I know there's a lot of ways to make money off people dying, weapons, contractors, stocks, and stuff like that, but I just hadn't jumped in yet, and I think this is the one. I think this is the time to do it. Okay, let's see if I see any questions. Yeah, Robert M. Woods is, he brought up Nestle. Thanks, Robert, for covering up my face with your question, but or your statement. But so Nestle they have owned a lot of America's fresh water for a while now. Use owned in quotations, because really you can't own water. It should be a resource of the society. It should not be Nestle's to own. But there's many areas where, as he mentioned, in Michigan, near Flint, not far from Flint, where they've paid like $200 a year to basically pump millions of gallons out and bottle it and sell it to people. So they make billions of dollars, and they pay like a $200 a year license to do that. They've done similar stuff in California and elsewhere. Right now, they're in talks to sell their water brands, their bottled water brands, which most of the bottled water brands you know of are Nestle. They're not. You might not realize they're Nestle, but it's Poland Spring and Pure Life and Arrowhead and all that stuff. So they're in talks to sell them. I think because I think actually activism has had an impact, and they're worried that they may soon lose the right to buy water so cheaply, and that could hurt their income. But this is the fact that they're in talks to sell it has created, has lit a bit of a fire under the ongoing activism to demand that these communities get their water back. And so what the goal is now is whoever were to buy that or be in talks to buy that from Nestle should not then be given the same ridiculous deal Nestle has had to steal all of our water and sell it back to us. I mean, which you'd think kind of no-brainer, right? But that's how our society works, is massive corporations have the right to buy up our world around us while you and I do not. And they have the power to go and piss and in the world around us, piss in the water, destroy the air. Whereas if you are caught in public pissing in a creek or a river or something, you could get arrested, right? For, tainting the water supply or something. Whereas Nestle generally can't. And if they do, they'll be given a fine that is so small to them. Oh, they got fined $1 billion. That is still nothing to them. So they'll be fined something that is so small, so meaningless that it's a parking ticket to them. You see like what are the shopping services, Fresh Direct, and these various other ones that bring groceries to your door, and UPS and a lot of these. And they know they're not going to find parking spots, especially in like New York City and shit. They're not going to find parking spots in front of every door. They're not going to find parking spots in front of any door. So Fresh Direct, I used to live in New York City. Fresh Direct would just go around and they just park in the middle of the road. Because what the fuck else are they going to do? They're never going to find a parking spot. Could you imagine Fresh Direct's business model if they had to keep circling the block looking for a parking spot for their massive truck of groceries? It's like, yeah, we had one delivery today. We circled a block in Brooklyn for, I'd say, 4 hours. Then we found a spot, but then some guy said it was his spot, so we had to leave. And then we circled for another 4 hours. No, that would be a terrible business model. So instead, they park in the road. They get parking tickets all day, every day, endlessly, just one after another. And it's the price of doing business to them. It's worth it because it doesn't. The $150 parking ticket times, let's say they get 12 a day on that truck or 10 a day or something. It's worth it to them. It's price of doing business. So that's what Nestle does with your fines for polluting water or something, or Big Oil does with the fines they have to pay. It's a parking ticket, price of doing business. Destroy the world, don't worry about it, pay the fine later. Because they're not threatened with prison. That's all you have to do, by the way, to stop a lot of this. If these CEOs honestly thought they were going to be locked away for violating these laws, for violating these regulations, if they honestly thought that the top of the organization, the CEOs, the true tops of these organizations were going to spend a night behind bars or a month or a year behind bars for the shit they do, for selling, for pushing opioids across the country and killing hundreds of thousands. If they thought they were going to spend time in jail, it would change everything. If Dow Chemical thought they were going to spend time in jail for polluting the water, done. Changes everything. Imprison these motherfuckers. If they're going to pollute the water, give everyone cancer. DuPont giving everyone cancer with Teflon. They knew it for years. They kept doing it. Monsanto giving everyone cancer with Roundup. They knew it for years. They know what's going on. They don't care because they have no fear that they will end up in prison. They have a little fear that they'll pay a fine. But again, that fine, even when it's one of the largest ever, doesn't matter. Still price of doing business. Now, granted, Purdue, one of these rare exceptions, was forced to go bankrupt, or actually went bankrupt in order to avoid paying the victims of the opioid crisis. But they, the Sacklers did have their Purdue Pharma taken away from them, but that is incredibly rare. So they don't even really have that fear. That fear, though, they're still billionaires, right? Almost all of the money that they were able to get by killing people around the country with opioids is still in their bank accounts. So the Sacklers are still, and Purdue Pharma still, from Purdue Pharma, the Sacklers are still incredibly rich. So really, at the end of the day, they lost their company, yeah, and they had to declare bankruptcy, but they're still multi-billionaires. So what do they really care? Whereas if they honestly believe they might go to prison, it's a different scenario. I'm not saying some wouldn't take it. You may still see it some of the time, but you'd see it far less. You'd see it far less. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here in a moment. Thank you guys for joining me. I do these almost every single weekday, except sometimes. And And you can check at leecamp.com. My stuff is very suppressed. It's not shown to many people. So if you want to see these videos, please head on over to leecamp.com every single day, except sometimes, to check them out and find out the new one. And yeah, we got a new Redacted tonight coming out this Friday. I also have a podcast called Government Secrets with Graham Elwood. I think you'd really enjoy it, and it's free. It's called Government Secrets. And we go through all kinds of obviously secrets the government wants to keep, but some of them topical, what's going on today. But a lot of them are, past things like assassinations, coups, CIA. Last week we went over the secret origins of the Cold War. Yeah, we go through that stuff every week. A lot of it is evergreen, so you can go back and binge listen to the previous episodes. And it's called Government Secrets. All right, please share this if you see fit, and I will see you tomorrow. Keep fighting.